Hey, all right.
Men.
All right. You guys want me to watch it? Let's watch it. This video is called Can Feminists and Non-Feminists Agree on Gender Equality? Probably not. Everybody should be equal. Woo! You know, not for nothing, but like everybody's about as equal as they're gonna get. You know what I mean? Everybody's pretty equal. We have some social standards that need to slowly be changed, but like it's one of those things where like feminism isn't really needed in the first world anymore. We just kind of need to let things like slowly ride. There are a couple of issues like that feminists never talk about. It's like, for instance, that we grossly underfund like research for autoimmune diseases, because and autoimmune diseases are predominantly like women. 90% of people with autoimmune diseases are women. But like they kind of focus on like other shit, you know, like not having to sign up for the draft or something. I don't really know. All I'm saying is I feel like we're pretty much there. And I think it's really just more of like a social thing, because as it stands, like really all it's about is letting men or women do things outside of what's considered the norm. That's it. Legally, you could do whatever you want as long as you're qualified. So, you know, we just have to kind of let old people die who are sexist. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what it is. Older people who run the systems are sexist, then they have to die, and then a better generation will come along. Just kind of takes time, man. It just takes time, honestly.
Men are making choices for us, women, about birth control, abortion, healthcare, everything, and we.
Well, I mean, like, we live in a fucking country. Everybody makes choices about everybody else. This is the fucking country. Like, we live in a society. We live in a community. Societies are communities. So, like, if you're gonna complain, abortion is a moral conversation. Like, oh, it's like, I understand why people think that it's murder. I think it's necessary. Not going to get into the whole thing, but like this idea that like men shouldn't be able to be part of this conversation, it's just silly. It's a community. We make community laws. If you get to have a conversation about taking my taxes and what to do with it, even though it's my money, I get to have a conversation of whether I think that you should be able to have an abortion or not.
Can't even have a say on it because they won't even hear us.
We are hearing you. That's why it's legal. You know what I'm saying? It's freaking legal. You notice they never take any older feminists to these things. They never take any like real, actual like working feminists. They always take like the fucking like 18-year-old who's still living off of her dad's credit card. You know.
And I have my non-feminists in the left spotlight. I have my feminists in the right spotlight. The feminist movement has changed from its original definition.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, it originally fought for, like, women to be able to vote and, you know, not get beat up and just be protected by the law, even though they should have always been had to fill out for the draft, whatever, but that's who cares. Now it's about, I don't know, overly socially policing and demanding that women be put into like managerial positions, but not demanding to be put into like, there's nobody's demanding that women are construction workers or HVAC techs. It's always, I want to be a manager, you know? And at the end of the day, like, you know, women generally, I think that the biggest feminist issue is that jobs that women tend to gravitate towards aren't paid as well as other jobs. That's more of like a feminist issue. Like women are like, oh, we only make 78 cents. Yeah, no, you don't. When you normalize it, it's like 98, 99. And those disparities can be kind of summed up. Honestly, part of it is sexism in the system. Part of it's that women like don't stand up for themselves. They need to be taught to. They socially need to be taught to stand up for themselves more, because like that's what happens when you get into those managerial positions. You need to like advocate for your own wage. And it's one of the things that we don't talk about enough. And that's why stronger women tend to perform very well in the system, because they stand up for themselves.
The reason why I hesitated is because I started to think about who is most served by mainstream feminism.
Is she going to say white women?
I don't personally think that that has changed. I think that white, heterosexual, cisgendered women are...
How the fuck did I know? Listen, I understand that there are different things that like black women face. There are different issues and whatnot. The thing is that like you need to have a certain amount of like homogeneity and heterogeneity in any group. If you come off the path too much, then you're going to lose your message. So I understand that like feminism should make sure they advocate for women, but that's more of like a black issue. Because if feminism focuses too much on different colors of people rather than on like the straight path of specifically talking about women, it loses its message and it gets watered down, and it's less palatable. People won't listen as much. It's just the unfortunate reality.
Are most served by mainstream feminism.
When I heard the definition of feminist, right, I was like, yeah, I'm a feminist. Like, yeah, I believe in equality of the sexes. Of course I do. But it changed the more that I researched the movement, the more that I saw how mainstream media portrayed it. And to me, it's like there's a lot of issues that happen.
Who wins the intersectional Olympics? Black non-passable trans women that are Muslim win the the intersectional Olympics.
Men in disproportionate amounts that are always overlooked, that no one talks about the.
I know you think I'm joking, but like that actually, they have to be disabled too, with like a peg leg, I don't know.
Suicide rate. No one talks about the homelessness rate for men. And it sucks because
True.
If your whole movement is based around equality of the sexes, right, and to make sure both sexes are equal, then that covers the whole spectrum, right? It's not just...
That means that women have to stop living off the Uncle Sam, because that's what kind of happens. There's a lot of societal expectations for men to be the breadwinners, and they tend to not be able to get onto like social security nets as well as women do. Because women are generally seen as like weak and defenseless, and so it creates the reason that we have higher suicide rates as men is because of all these like incredible pressures. And we like to say like, well, that's because you have a patriarchy, and it's like, well, not for nothing, but women helped us build our system. Women helped us build our system, and so did biology. That's the reality. The overwhelming majority of cultures in the world are male dominated in the sense where like, well, yes, they're generally male dominated, but like men are expected to take care of the women and the children. Their lives are generally seen as less valuable, and that's shifting. It's changing. America's doing the right thing. A lot of first world countries are getting it right and being more equal, but we act like men like created the system and that women never benefited from the system. But at the end of the day, especially in the past where work was much harder, women benefited by not having to do real work. Like, yeah, it's hard work taking care of your kids, but at the end of the day, it's easier than having to go to like work and actually like provide. And like, it's something that we don't like to talk about, I'm just saying, it's the truth. I'm not belittling parents, but we also know that nowadays, you see both parents working and they're also taking care of their kid. Give it to grandma. If your grandmother can take care of your kid, it's not that hard, okay? Grandmothers are old. So it's like, we got to go to work. You want to give it to grandma? It's like, okay, I'm sure a kid's a hassle, but you're giving it to your fucking grandmother. I mean, the grandmother can barely move. You think that it's not exactly the hardest job to take care of the kids. Taking care of the house becomes difficult, but then, you split that work up. It's clearly manageable with 2 full-time jobs. All I'm saying. Not trying to be an asshole, not trying to discredit single mothers out there, but just letting you know.
One sex, it's equality. The title of feminist inherently...
Although, you want to know what? For context, back in the day, you'd have like fucking 8 kids. So that's how it offset itself. Back in the day, you'd have like 8 kids. I think it makes sense.
Excludes men.
Because like, you have kids and you're like, hell, half of them are going to die. I got to have 8 kids. Help me, till the farm. I don't know what words I'm using.
Interesting.
But the definition doesn't.
Sorry for the tangent.
Male privilege is real.
Sure. All privileges are real. Male privilege, woman privilege, it all exists. Everybody has privileges. Some have more privileges than disprivileges.
It's not lost on me how many more men are in academia and in higher education. Women are called more often to put their careers on hold in order to have children.
That's because you literally have to put the child out of your vagina. That's one of the things. It's like you literally have to put your career on hold if you're going to have a child because you're the one that pushes it out of your cooter. Like how the fuck? Like logically, how else? Like yeah, I'm gonna have the baby. I'm gonna put my husband is gonna go. Like you realize that generally women get benefits to be able to like not work for like months or so to push the baby out. That's like a privilege of a woman to get more maternity leave. So she's like, well, why do women have to put their careers on hold? I don't know. Because I'm not shooting a fucking baby out of the head of my cock. I don't really know what to say.
Or for whatever other reasons. That's just kind of the way I see it manifesting most in my life, is just seeing how hard it is to be an intellectual woman in academia. My name is Faith, and I am not a feminist. I am a strong woman, and I was raised by strong women, but I cannot get behind a few of the core ideals of what it often means to be a feminist, so I do not identify
Yeah, like not shaving your armpits. Gross.
as one.
My mother is a teacher. She has her master. She has years and years of experience. And yet her place within the school, her place within, as far as like authority over students, is not the same as a man.
How so?
And I think that's an inequality that I've just been
How so?
shown from my mother, who comes home and says, you know, I just had the worst day at work because I was uncomfortable the entire time.
What does that mean?
Or I had a strange experience with a male student who just like would not listen to a word I said.
What is
it? Wasn't connecting, and it wasn't until I brought in the vice principal who was male or another teacher who was male that things could be kind of squashed and covered.
So he just said a thing without actually giving proof. So what it sounds like he said is that the students don't respect your mother as much as the male teachers. So maybe she should just be a stronger woman. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but you know, my mom was a very strong woman who was a manager. She ran like 25 stores. In our, like, she used to work for White Castle and she was a manager of like 25 stores. I feel like it's just easy to be like, and you know what, maybe people do respect men more, but be a stronger woman. If the issue that your mom is having is that kids don't respect her that much, I mean, you know, maybe she needs to speak up better. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like this, like, does she get paid less? Does she get like denied opportunities because she's a woman? You haven't made those. You haven't shown anything for that. You just said that the students kind of don't respect her very much. And maybe it's harder for women to be able to speak up. Maybe it's because women are considered bitches if they act strong, I guess. But like, that really depends on the manager. I've had some good managers, and like I've had some strong female managers before, and then I've had some female managers who are just rude.
Just growing up, I would say that overall our school systems are more geared towards women. There's more female teachers, and that's how our children are raised.
Sure.
You know, the things that you were alluding to. Your mom has to deal with those difficulties that a man
Tell your mom to get a gun.
would not have to deal with.
Kids will listen to her
then.
then.
Have to deal with a lot of difficulties that most women wouldn't have to deal with. We do benefit from certain privileges, but so do women.
True. That's
I
fair.
think you considered it a privilege that there are more women in the teaching profession, but you should also consider that other options weren't necessarily or historically available
They're available now, so go do them.
to women, because
Women tend to want to be teachers more than men because like teaching is considered one of like the more what would you call it, like nurturing roles. Like, you know, there are male teachers, right? But like, it's kind of just one of those things. Women tend to gravitate towards more like maternally caretaking type roles. So like the opportunity's there now, so do that opportunity. This is what I'm saying. Like, maybe with more time, because the opportunity is available for everybody to do whatever they want now. Obviously, there are like socioeconomic aspects to it, or there are like economic aspects to it. But at the end of the day, like, you know, this is what I'm talking about. We're as free as we're gonna get. Everything else is like social. So like, there's nothing else to really do but wait and be like, yeah, let your daughter do whatever they want. And I wouldn't be surprised if men still tended to go towards male-dominated professions and women tended to go towards female-dominated professions. I wouldn't doubt that it would still happen. Maybe it won't. It doesn't really matter, though, because we have the opportunity.
Because they were considered to be more nurturing, a lot of women were pushed into that field.
Still, women
are more nurturing.
Are choosing these majors and choosing their region of study, whereas men are tending to choose higher paying majors. They're choosing more to go into STEM fields and such like that, and reaping the financial benefits, while women are also reaping their own happiness benefits of going into a field that they enjoy.
That's actually kind of true. It's an interesting perspective, but like, I think that, yeah, generally women tend to go towards jobs that they are happier with, their ideal jobs, where men kind of go where the money is more than anything else. And so like, yeah, that's actually an interesting privilege that I didn't think about, that women tend to have the opportunity to go towards things that they enjoy more. Interesting.
If I were born the opposite sex, my life would be easier.
I don't know. That's like a dumb question, I feel like. That's like a weird question. I guess that's just to root out. I don't know. I feel like men and women are equal in their own different struggles, you know? I wouldn't want to give this up, though.
I started to walk
Diamond.
over just thinking inherently the privileges that men in this society have and how they're able
Just be trans. Fucking problem solved, dog. I think this is 2021. You know what I'm saying? That's all you got to do.
to navigate far easier and
You get the male
and all of that
privilege.
stuff. And then I thought what it would be like to be a black man in this society. And
This woman's very woke.
I don't know that it would be any easier.
Probably would, yeah. It would still probably be easier to be a black man in society than. Wait, so if you're saying that like if you were a black man it wouldn't be easier, then you're like acknowledging that there is like a female privilege. You know, if you think that black men get more shit, which is probably maybe it is true, then you're acknowledging that like that men are oppressed as well. It's not just because they're black. There's other issues as well.
I am first generation Mexican American. I have 2 Mexican parents. If I were to be born a male Mexican, it'd be so much easier for just that group. I try to break off from those stereotypes of Melanie gets a table ready for dinner. Excuse me, I have 2 brothers that can do the exact same thing. You know, why can't they do it? Why?
I'm not trying to be mean, but like I understand that women face specific issues, but it's like her go-to example of like of this is that like she had to set the table and her brothers didn't. You know what I mean? It's like that's your struggle. That seems kind of like that's what you're gonna bitch about. You know what I mean? Because then on the flip side, you know, like those traditional families are like usually like, okay, Clara, I don't know what the fuck her name is. You go set the table, and then the boys are gonna go do the yard work and like fix the shit around the house. Those are generally like the way that the traditions run. So it's like that. Like this is one of the things that bothers me. It's like, how am I supposed to take you seriously when like this is a nitpicking conversation? This isn't like, oh I wanted to be a fucking surgeon, but my parents made me become a fucking gardener or something. I don't know. You can understand what I'm saying? They're focusing on like, oh, set the table. It's like that's your struggle. Seems like you're just being fucking sensitive. Like, just set the table and be lucky that you don't have to take the garbage out or something.
Why do I have to do it? My name is Melanie Valdez, and I am
I would rather set the table than mow the fucking lawn, okay?
on the feminist side. I had an incident where
I actually bought a new lawnmower. I like it a lot.
I was sexually assaulted.
Wow.
And that changed my whole perspective.
See, that would have been a better thing to like to go with rather than the setting the table. That's probably a better spot to talk about. You know, just the physical power dynamic.
If I was born any other thing than I am, I would have to struggle differently than I have already struggled, and compared to some people in minorities or some people that are white. Some people that are white have struggled more than me. There's always a positive and a negative that you're born with, and
depends on the area.
It's how you utilize that and get over it that I think is important, rather than focusing on if I was born this or if I was born that.
I think that the question of would you rather be somebody else highlights a bigger issue than the privileges associated with that other thing. I think that if your main focus is like, I wish I was somebody else, rather than like, I wish I could fix the system to be better for somebody like me, then like you're engaging more in like envy or jealousy. I don't know which one would be right, rather than like constructively trying to change the system. And to me, that shows more of a victim complex than it shows like an activist mentality.
I think it is kind of what we make of it. And I'd almost say that to want to be anything different than what we are is possibly
I want to be a fucking dinosaur, bro.
The feminist movement.
I want to be a fucking dinosaur.
Part of feminism is telling women that they're worth it already.
This guy's smart, bro. Sounds like he's saying what I said, just not as good because I'm obviously cooler and I'm a dinosaur.
That they're already enough. I have a little sister. I have friends who were told by their father, by their older brother, that you are enough. And now they're doing whatever they want because they were told they could. They were given the opportunity from the beginning. And they weren't told, well, if you were a man, you could. No, 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 no. They were told, you are a woman and you can because of who you are.
True. There are like aspects. That's a really good reflection of like the social aspect, where like if you have a strong supportive family that supports strong women, then those women will have a higher chance of being stronger women that will succeed in like a career path field or a career field. Whereas like if you have a family that's a little bit more regressive, then you're just going to feel like you're being subjugated, which has a profoundly negative impact on your mental perspective or mental health or mental perspective of yourself. And so like women who grow up in stronger households, like my daughters, if I have daughters, my daughters are going to fucking succeed in anything because I have a supportive household that's going to allow my daughters to do anything. Whereas like her household was repressive. So, find a mate that's going to let you advocate for a strong daughter.
Not sure that having a community that affirms who you are is enough.
It is. It is very much enough. It is.
If the society,
there are no laws and policies that oppress women,
that govern, tell you otherwise.
There's no law that tells a woman she can't be the same. She's literally being. So this is where we know it's a victim complex. So what I said before is that if you have a strong community, which is mostly your family, if you have a strong family that tells you to be strong and to not listen to people when they say that women can't do something, those women will succeed because they're being reinforced positively. However, this woman thinks that there's still like systemic oppression of women. It is objectively false. Okay, there's no systemic. There might be societal restrictions on women. Right? There might be like social norm restrictions. Again, if you have a strong family household, you're not going to run into those problems, especially at least not to the same degree. And to just say that the system's against you, despite the fact that there's no law that would stop you from doing something, is ignorant. You're focusing too much on the law and not enough on the social aspect.
My parents told me I could do whatever I want to do. And so I went to law school, and I'm an attorney, and I write. But I don't make as much as my coworker who does the exact same thing, and who I'm probably am more qualified than.
From the statistics,
is that true? Because I just kind of doubt that's true. I just do, because the 80% rule or whatever, it's generally it's much more like the upper echelon jobs. So like people aren't making the disparities. It's usually like the women will work, like again, women don't go for like, they don't work as long hours. They don't go for higher paying career fields, this, that, and the other thing. And so like, it's possible that she gets paid less, but she's just saying it. And I kind of don't believe her because she doesn't seem particularly credible. So I just don't know, like she's just making a claim, an unsubstantiated claim that she just makes less because she's a woman. But do you actually know how much your coworker makes?
that I read, there was no wage gap, it was an earnings gap.
So it's your understanding that there is no wage gap between men and women.
Yes,
there's
there's an earnings gap based on like multiple things. Careers chosen, hours worked, the number of men work longer hours, choose higher paying jobs, tend to go for jobs that pay more rather than jobs that they actually enjoy. And they take less vacation. So yes, like those are the disparities. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't other disparities, but they also advocate for themselves better so that when they get into those higher topper jobs, managerial jobs, they tend to get paid more because of that advocacy for oneself. And so unless you can really prove to us that you're making less than I kind of just don't believe it. I think that you're just saying that to perpetuate a victim mentality.
Yeah, different positions, different schooling can also be a factor. You can have the same degree, but from two different schools, and they'll pay someone from a better school.
I look handsome right now. Thanks, Mom.
How the interviews go, even negotiable, entry salaries.
Why then are women choosing jobs that pay less?
Because they don't have the same societal standards, right? So like my girlfriend chose a career that she loves. Right? She chose a career that she absolutely loves. Like she's a behavioral specialist. She's fantastic at her job, and she really genuinely enjoys it. I used to clean piss, shit, vomit, and throw up off of buses, and we made the same amount of money. And so the reason is because I chose a job that would pay. And then I had gotten a promotion at one point, and I would have stayed there, and it made even more money. And I was basically just like the shop bitch. I would walk around, and I would just do whatever they needed me to do, and I would make more money because I was willing to just do a job that sucks. And like that's kind of one of the, and then of course I was incredibly fortunate to be able to do this, and this is fantastic, but this is like an outlier, right? And that's kind of what it is. I will, like, if this fails, I've already talked to my partner about going back and like driving a bus, or like getting qualified to become like a welder, or to work for like a security company. Whatever I needed to do to make money. It's more of a male priority to make money than it is to be happy. And that's one of those things.
Culture.
It's true.
Men and women need to work together to create equality.
True. I'm not going to leave you. I'm doing pretty decently on my content. I'm actually slowly growing, and I love you guys. I have no intention of leaving, but I have backup plans because I need to be a responsible adult, and I'm going to have kids within the next year. So I need to be able to make sure I can support my family. So if I did have to turn away from this, of course I'm going to do whatever I have to support my family. Which just shows like another thing. Like I would leave this tomorrow if it meant I needed to support my family. And like this is a job I love to death. And like I think that that's like a male perspective. Is like I will give up my dream job so that I can have a family. And like I feel like that's one of those things that's like a more like male centric kind of an attitude. But I have no intention of leaving right now. Don't worry. I don't want to leave. Just want to keep that clear. Okay?
I think one of the reasons
the chat's spamming baby gut.
that I can take issue with certain types of feminism is it does come across as anti-man sometimes. It comes across as
True.
It's your fault.
True.
You know, if I go to the Women's March and I see signs that say smash the patriarchy and like our P word bites back and stuff like that, that's as much as that's speaking against, you know, an oppressive top culture, that's speaking to all men, and I don't see that as helpful.
Well, I think all men benefit from patriarchy. I mean,
Women benefit from patriarchy too. I mean, we just talked about like a whole tangent about how women get to choose jobs that they like while men have to choose jobs that make money. There's massive societal expectations on the men. And you could be like, well, the patriarchy created that. Women created our system as well. Like, women want men that can take care of them. That's why men that can take care of women are just advocated for in society. It's not this magical thing. Go and ask real women. Hey, would you rather, would you choose, what a job a man is working, the amount of money they make, is that a factor for you? And they'll say yes, and I'll agree with them because they should. They should be looking for somebody that makes money. And if you're a man and you have that same quality, that's fine. Like, if you want to look for a woman that makes more money, that's fine. But generally speaking, the society that we've created, that women help create, puts the stressors of success onto men, which is why we're killing ourselves at a higher rate.
I mean, you need to acknowledge your privilege first.
Knowledge yours, bro.
If people could hear that about themselves and not be defensive, I think that we could probably push the needle forward a lot faster.
Something that plagued.
You always need to ask her, what's the goal? What's the goal? What do you mean? What does that mean to you? What's the needle moving? What does that mean? What do we need to change? We never talk about that. We never talk about what needs to change.
The feminist movement is that there's this idea that in order to gain equal footing, the other side has to be emasculated or has to be dropped down.
And it's not, this isn't pie, you know what I mean? Just because I get a slice doesn't mean you get you get less,
absolutely,
right?
and
like
that's
just
the key.
because, yeah.
Well, I get more, I'm bigger. I feel like I'm entitled to more of the pie. I'm a large man, no? Come on.
Advocating for women's rights doesn't infringe upon men's rights.
I shouldn't have pie.
Right.
Pizza's not good for me.
You know, first and second wave feminism were very clear in the very particular things that they were trying to accomplish. You had first wave feminism, which was very clearly, you know, trying to get the right to vote. Second wave feminism, right after like World War II and such, helping women progress in the workplace and such. And now I see third wave feminism, and it is a broken apart, can be lost movement that goes in so many directions, has so many extra qualifiers. And I think about, I was talking to one of my friends who went to the Women's March with a pro-life feminist group. And she said on multiple accounts they were asked to leave because that's not why the Women's March was happening, and that they were against the movement. And so you have all these different types of feminism. There doesn't seem to be a clear center and a clear desire, and I hear people call themselves feminists for all different reasons.
I think the biggest movement from a lot of feminists would be talking about sexual assault and like listening to women. One question I have, and this is more of a question to ponder, is I wonder if there's an association with increased sexual violence and the acceptability of the consumption of porn. Because I will say, like, I started looking at pornography when I was a kid. You're developing when you're a kid, and it has an impact on you. I enjoy like rougher interactions. I'm not going to get specific. And then I have self-control, you know, but like I enjoy rougher interactions, and like I just wonder if you know, especially younger kids, you see porn, and porn is about like violent sex a lot of times, and it's very easy to get caught down the rabbit hole. Back in the day, you found your dad's magazine, you saw some titties, not that big of a deal. Nowadays, you go onto a website, and all of a sudden you're going down a rabbit hole, and all of a sudden you're seeing a girl get like violently fucked, and she's liking it. And then like, of course, like there's always like this subtextual kind of like almost like rapey vibe to porn. And it's like, you know, then young men are like, women want to be kind of sexually assaulted. I'm not saying that that's the reason. I'm just saying, like, do we think that there's a correlation to like the mass like distribution and accessibility of pornography and sexual violence? I don't know if it's true. I'm just saying, like, and the reason I'm saying that is because some feminists champion sex work, and it's like, you know, it's possible that the champion of sex work is one of the reasons why we're having some issues with sexual violence. And I'm not trying to put this on women and say it's their fault. I'm just saying, I know from a personal experience that porn has been bad for me. I feel that way. And so I wouldn't doubt it if that is kind of just distributed across the board.
And with some of them, I would agree, and I would call myself a feminist for those reasons. But because it's so all over the place, I just can't call myself a feminist.
You know, one day you're looking at a girl's boobs, all of a sudden you see big booties, then you see like fucking hardcore anal gagging pussy torture, then all of a sudden you're watching somebody take a shit, you know? It's too much. That joke was too much for me.
Feminists can make a concise push towards one issue together. Would I be willing to join? If I agreed with the point, yes. Okay. If I agreed with what the movement was,
yeah, like CNC is like very popular now, and it's a little bizarre. And engaging in CNC. So for those of you who don't know, CNC is like consensual non-consent. So it requires very, very strict boundaries to establish in order to engage in something like that, because that's a very personalized thing. And the more and more people that are into like CNC type of like sexual interaction, the problem becomes you can't engage with that without being with somebody that you love and respect and you've been with and you understand them completely, because you could do something wrong. And it's very easy potentially for a man to engage in CNC consensually with a woman and then take it too far, because that means something different to everybody. Your idea of like that like more dominating engagement could mean something very different from partner to partner. And so all of a sudden you might be like, for instance, some people like hitting. You might hit them and they might not like it, but they might be afraid to say anything because you rushed into this engagement in a relationship that just has not established the proper boundaries yet. And so there's just a lot here.
Is going for, yes.
As a woman, I'm not sure that I'm concerned whether or not you want to join as a man.
What does that mean?
Is that not part of the issue?
But that's segregating that's segregating genders. If you're saying that you don't care about my opinion as a man.
This guy was like, hey, I just want you guys to have an issue to rally around and I'll join you if I believe in the issue. And she's like, well, I don't really care if you care about what I'm talking about. And it's like, you've just been exposed. You don't like men and you don't want men to be part of the movement that men need to be part of. You just hate men. And that's why a lot of people don't like feminism, because they just feel like it's a bunch of women who hate men like her.
Man, that goes against everything the feminist movement goes.
I don't care about reshaping and forming my feminism in a way that is digestible for you.
He just asked you to give him like a thing to fight for. It's not even asking to reshape. Like, hey, can you give me like hey, can I have the number 2 burger? I'm going to McDonald's. Well, I don't really feel like making you like changing the whole menu for you. It's like, I just kind of want the burger. You know what I mean? It's like he's asking a very simple thing.
As a man.
So what's the current one message?
The definition of feminism across the board is the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes.
Yeah, so what equality are you fighting for is what he's asking.
Why are we only talking about the female inequalities? Why aren't we talking about the male inequalities?
We do not have the same experience. We do not, you are not.
I fucking hate when people say that. If you say that you don't have the same experience as me and you can't articulate your experience doesn't mean a goddamn fucking thing to me. And so far, she's done a horrible job articulating her experience. And she's clearly a very intelligent woman that has the capacity to articulate her experience. But since she's not, it means to me that she hasn't faced a particular experience that was additionally stressful outside of everybody else.
Oppressed in the same ways that I am.
No, and I'm sure you're not oppressed in the same ways that I am.
Yeah, true.
More of our world leaders should be women.
That's just the question. Is my answer is I just don't care. I don't give a shit if we have more women world leaders or not. Like, I just want qualified leaders, and if they happen to be women, that's fine. But I that's like, hey, do you want more white people to be leaders? No, not really. I just want people that are qualified to be leaders. You know what I mean? Like, I just want qualified individuals to be leaders. I want more women to lead themselves to the grocery store and buy me my loaded potatoes with bacon bits. My girlfriend made those the other day. They were pretty good.
Let's talk about for like this, like abortion. Those who signed the bill in the room with Trump, they were all white men. I did not see a single woman. It doesn't matter if it's a white woman. I did not see a single woman in there. So those men are making choices for us, women, about birth control, abortion, healthcare, everything, and we can't even have a say on it because they won't even hear us.
I don't view it as we should have more women in office. I view it as we should have the most qualified people in office. If you have an issue with, the bill being signed by white men, I believe that voting for Congress people that are women, or whoever you review and believe are the most qualified, will put those people in power.
If we are talking about the last election,
Very good. I agree.
I believe that the most qualified candidate did not win.
Who is that?
People need to.
Oh, this is 2018, so she's talking about Hillary Clinton. Bro, Hillary Clinton is a corrupt scumbag. I mean, honestly, like, dude, bro, no offense here, but like, nobody really liked Hillary Clinton. She was an asshole. My mother hated her. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like she's like a corrupt politician. People just don't like her. It's like Donald Trump won. Okay. Maybe get a more qualified woman to run? I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Like, Hillary Clinton? Bro, put Michelle Obama up and I'll fucking vote for her in a heartbeat. I love Michelle Obama. I don't give a fuck about any of what you guys think.
Really consider what role gender played in that.
And I'm sure it did play a role in that. I guess. Probably. I mean, the world, some people didn't vote for Hillary because they didn't think that... So there's a lot of conservative people that I've talked to that don't care if we have a woman as a president, but they look at other countries around the world and they look at the fact that those countries are objectively more oppressive of women. And they say, do we think that those other countries would listen to a woman president? And I think I personally still think we should vote a woman into office and shouldn't take away from voting for a woman. But I understand what they're saying. I understand why they're saying that. I understand that. Because we have to acknowledge, like, we're a very progressive nation. Like, we can pretend that we aren't, but like, there are people getting murdered in the streets in other countries because they're just women. You know what I mean? And so, like, other countries may not respect a woman president as much because the American president is the most powerful person in the world.
Just logically, the people that they're representing are both men and women, so the people representing us should be men and women. And it would be really hard for me to ever understand why people wouldn't think that there should be more women in leadership.
I don't
love
care.
Women. I love being a woman. I love strong women. I was raised...
Look, she's like idolizing her. She's like, oh my God, this woman is an actual person that likes herself. I really wish I was that. Yes, that's her whole mentality.
Strong women. I don't agree with all of the things that are traditionally included in feminist beliefs. Like, I have a different view on abortion than you guys, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hillary was winning and then went to Virginia and told them coal was bad. That's one of the problems. I don't know if she said coal was bad. See, that's one of the things that people don't really acknowledge. Donald Trump won more than anything else because he said he would try to fix the problem of people losing their jobs. People are losing their jobs because, like, the economy is fucked. And there's less employment opportunities, and there were harsher restrictions on different energy sources, which makes sense because we need to protect our planet. And Trump said, "I'm going to try to give you your jobs back." And Hillary didn't offer a solution. Now, I would personally say the solution to be offered is a universal basic income, but Hillary just said, "Your jobs are gone. Go fuck yourself." And for generations of people, like family, these are like people who've done this job for like 2, 3, 4, 5 generations that have done all these jobs, like coal mining. To tell them that your job is just gone now and you can't support your family is a slap in the face to people who, like, really, I really think people undervalue this idea that these people, it's mostly men too, It's like, you know, you're gonna take my place. You're gonna mine coal. You're gonna provide for your family, and you're gonna provide part of an infrastructure for the United States. We need coal. And the president's like, yeah, it's gone now. Fuck you. And you're treating people and their jobs like economic fucking units. I understand that that's way is slowly changing, and we're shifting away from things like coal mining. But to just fundamentally disrespect people who are providing a necessary service to our economy and have been doing so for 100 years. To tell those people to go fuck themselves is a slap in the face. And on principle, I understand why they would say fuck you. And so, like, people don't acknowledge that. They want to be like, oh, it's because people are racist. It's like, no, people want to work a fucking job. You want to know why people are getting more hateful? Jobs are disappearing and wages are going down. And whether we can criticize Trump, I criticize Trump because I don't think his policies had very good long term. It wouldn't be able to be sustainable long term. But at least he put more money in people's pockets, and he got people back to work, and he lowered unemployment. It's a big factor. Everybody's like, we need to remove oppression. How do you think people remove oppression? You have to make money. You need a job to get to be able to generate generational wealth. So, like, you know, that's why people voted for him. That's what it is. That's their priority, to get to work. God forbid. Imagine shitting on people who are voting for somebody because they want to go to work. Because even if Trump is bad policy-wise in the long term and in the bigger picture, which I believe, people are like, I want to work. Could you imagine telling people they're shitty for wanting to work? That's such a dumb, entitled fucking perspective. It's always a bunch of very critical college kids or fucking YouTube politicians that are like, oh my God, Trump is such a bad guy. Why would anybody vote for him? Well, if you ever worked a real job in your entire life, you'd understand. But you guys never do. It's just a bunch of fucking kids that have like their uncles in high places, and then they grow up with a fucking silver spoon in their mouth, and then they become these big affluent fucking content creators that have never worked a real goddamn job. And they're like, I know everything. You don't know a fucking thing. Most of you are dumb, entitled little kids that had as much time. Either you had nepotism in your family, or you had all the time in the world to sit on a fucking computer and build your presence on social media or on YouTube as it was growing while playing video games, and like you're incredibly disconnected from the real world.
Deal for me, that's one of the most important things to me. I'm a Christian, and that's just one of my beliefs. So that's kind of, for me, that's one of the driving forces why I don't identify as a feminist.
To divide into two teams gender-wise is not Spartan. It's not often what we do, but it is sometimes. And how do we avoid that? And how do we avoid that separation? How do we make it a collective effort, even though I'm a conservative white man? And, you know, there are different views than me, and I don't want to force you to agree with me. I don't want to change your mind in that way, but I want to see how I can still work with you fully and be on your team, and you can be on mine as we disagree agreeably.
Thank you, everyone, for probably the most respectful middle ground I've ever seen.
Hey guys, this is Jason from Jubilee. Thank you so much.
Well, that was fun. That was a video. That was certainly a video.